Hello everyone, I'm FARMERSIM, and one of the most frequently asked questions that I get in my YouTube comments is what are your graphics settings, how do you get your game to look that good, do you use Reshade, etc, etc. So today I figured I would put a video together to show you exactly how I have my graphics set, run through the specs of my PC, as PC specification and the health and condition of your PC can play a huge part in making this game in particular run as well as it can on your rig. I say this game in particular because Farming Simulator 25 is its own animal, I've found. Running on its own unique game engine, built specifically for Farming Simulator by Giant Software, I found getting this game to run smoothly all the time has been quite the task, as there can be so many variables to consider. We'll go into these later. Now before we get into anything, I do need to say that I am no authority whatsoever on PC hardware, what's good and what's not, the best setup to have and all that. What I know now has been self-taught, learned through trial and error, countless hours of fiddling with settings, endless Google searches. I'm sure you guys and gals know the score. The PC I've built here has been upgraded a couple of times over the last few years to a strict budget, and is by no means the ultimate gaming rig. Far from it, in fact. There are much more powerful bits of hardware out there now, admittedly quite pricey bits of hardware, but way better than what I run here. So this video will go to show you that you don't need the best of everything to run Farming Simulator at maximum settings. I may well be a YouTube content creator, but I am by no means swimming in cash and able to go out and just buy the very best of everything, especially with today's current tech prices. I bought what I could afford at the time, fortunately before the prices of these bits of hardware started to go through the roof. Being a YouTube content creator, the visual presentation of my content is of the utmost importance to me. Regardless of what I may be babbling about at the time in a video, if it looks awful, if it's running low frames per second and isn't flowing smoothly, I just can't deal with it. That footage gets binned and then I have to spend an undetermined amount of time figuring out the problem. And this brings me to the point I brought up earlier about there being so many variables that can cause this game to misbehave. Not discounting the myriad of different PC specs out there, different processors, RAM, graphics cards, motherboards, hard drives, whether mechanical, solid state, NVMe with varying write speeds, bad RAM, overworked CPUs that are 5 years overdue for a thermal paste change, out-of-date drivers, PCs that have never been physically dusted out and are struggling to maintain good airflow. The factors that can be a cause of your game not running smoothly are numerous. But the main one, within the world of Farming Simulator? Mods! Farming Simulator 25 has been out for over a year now, and there are literally thousands of mods available for it. Maps, script mods, tractors, combines, tools, you name it, they're out there. So it is of the utmost importance that we as players make sure we get our mods from reputable, trustworthy sources. Mods are what make this game what it is, that give it the variety that allow us all to play how we like to play. Over the last several months in particular, but this does go back further in time unfortunately, the Farming Simulator community has lost a lot of modders to mod and asset theft. Mods being crudely copied by folks who don't really know what they're doing, and then releasing those files into the community for unsuspecting players to download, who then get frustrated and wonder why the game is crashing or misbehaving. So we can all do our bit to support our hugely important modding community by only downloading our mods from reputable sources. The official Giants mod hub, modders' own websites or itch.io pages, Facebook groups, etc, etc. Doing this and sticking to these sources is the one way we can all make sure we're doing our bit to support the modders who make these mods that support this game and make it what it is. So, with all that out the way, let's go into my graphics settings, go through the spec of my PC quickly and look at my Reshade settings. So before we get into anything in depth in the settings, I'll run through very quickly my particular PC specs. Now, like I said before, this is by no means up-to-date modern stuff. I say modern stuff, the latest hardware that you can buy, because to be quite honest, I can't afford anything like that. It's way beyond my affordability range at the minute. The prices of some things out there now are crazy, and obviously there's reasons for that, AI and the rise of data centers and stuff around the world and all that kind of stuff. The prices of RAM and graphics cards and computer chips in general has just skyrocketed. So what I've got here, I'm grateful that I was able to purchase what I've got here at the time I did, but like I said, it's by no means like properly modern stuff, but it can still just about cope with Farming Simulator 25. I did say that I described it as its own animal because it really is. My rig here can run other games, cyberpunk, quite heavy detailed games. It can breeze through anything pretty much. But FARMERSIM, the one game I've chosen to make a thing out of and do content on YouTube, it's the one game that this system still kind of does struggle with. It's running, you know, at maximum capacity. I'm making it work for its money, as it were. But yeah, so my PC specs, I run an AMD Ryzen 7 5800X 8-core CPU. So again, and it's an AM4, so it's older architecture. It's not an AM5 motherboard or anything. I've got an ASUS Republic of Gamers STRIX B550F gaming motherboard. Again, AM4 socket, so it's kind of old hardware now. I do have 64 gigabytes of CORSAIR Vengeance Pro DDR4 3600 megahertz RAM. Again, yes, 64. I was able to buy it because at the time, within my price range and what I had available to me, I was able to buy it. But again, it wasn't, you know, hugely expensive. It did cost a few quid, but it wasn't anything like what that kind of thing would cost now. I run an AMD RX 7900 XTX HellHound. I do love the names that some of these companies give their graphics cards. 24 gigabyte graphics card. So again, I wanted to go for a 24 gig. This was the second time I'd upgraded throughout the farming, or third actually technically, but throughout my time with Farming Simulator, I'd started out with a 4 gigabyte way back in the early days of 22. That was working its nuts off. I then upgraded to a 12 gigabyte AMD unit, and that did much better. But then when FARMERSIM 25 came along, for how I wanted it to perform and how I wanted it to behave, that 12 gigabyte thing just couldn't handle it, because it was it was older tech, and it didn't have the option to run the Fidelity FX super resolution frame generation that this current graphics card that I have now can do. And for me, on my hardware, what I have in front of me, that frame generation is the key to me being able to produce smooth, not choppy and not laggy gameplay. So we'll go into that shortly anyway. But yeah, 24 gig graphics cards. And again, the pricing of this thing, I've had comments from people in the past who have assumed that I spent £2,000-3,000 on this graphics card, and I can categorically assure you that was not the case. It was less than 900 quid, brand new. The Nvidia equivalents that had the similar amount of VRAM, 24 gig, they were probably 2 or 3 times the price. So that was completely out of my affordability range. So I've stuck with the AMD, and because I've got the AMD processor as well, I just felt it kind of like worked together. I know that's not important. You can have an AMD processor and Nvidia graphics card, of course you can, but for me, I just, it was within my affordability range, so that's what I stuck with. I have a 1000-watt PSU. I do actually run, I do make my graphics card work for its money. Like I said before, I actually run 4 monitors, because as a content creator and as someone who does occasionally do live streams as well, having multiple monitors is a real benefit. So I actually have 4 monitors. I've got my main gaming monitor that I have in front of me is a 32-inch Samsung 4K curved LED monitor, and then surrounding that I've got 3 ASUS 24-inch LCD gaming monitors. All of these monitors are running at 60 Hz, 60 frames per second. So that's my personal PC spec. Now, of course, the minimum PC requirements for Farming Simulator are a bit less than what I have here. Obviously, without going into the different operating systems, it requires an Intel Core i5 6400 or an AMD Ryzen 5 1400 or an Apple M1 or better. So I know I'm above the minimum spec requirements for that. It requires 8 gig of RAM, so I'm well above that. I get that. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to kind of, in inverted commas, future-proof my system for as long as I could. It requires an NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1050 Ti, an AMD Radeon RX 470 or an Apple M1 or better, a minimum of 3 GB VRAM with DirectX 12 support. So again, I know I'm long beyond that, but again, it's interesting, and another reason why I described Farming Simulator as its own animal, because even though it says a minimum of 3 GB VRAM and I run 24 gigabytes of VRAM, there's this graphics card and this settings in certain parameters still cannot run this game very well. I solidly rely on the frame generation in order for me to be able to produce smooth, as less choppy as possible gameplay. and obviously it goes into the broadband interconnection. You need 45 gig available space, etc., etc. And there is a note at the bottom of the minimum spec requirements on the Giants website that says these system requirements can't cover all possible system configurations, so issues could occur that avoid or influence the functionality in some cases. And that makes perfect sense, because if you've got a console, you've got a console, and it's the same as everyone else's console, whether that's an Xbox variant or a PlayStation variant. They're all exactly the same. In the world of PCs, it's completely different. We could, there are millions and millions, maybe, of different configurations and spec that we can all have. We can all have different, like I mentioned before in that opening monologue. There's so many variables, not discounting mods, whether you different maps, the optimization of those maps, the optimization of mods, the quality of the mods, but the spec of the PC and the condition of the PC. It's so important. I do my very best to keep on top of the maintenance of this PC. I replace the thermal paste every 8 months or so, give or take a bit, which I know might be a bit overkill, but that's what I choose to do, because I want to make sure that this thing doesn't have a fit sometime and overheat and all that kind of stuff. Because again, needing my PC to work every time I turn it on, it's one of the best ways you can keep on top of it. If you know you're on top of things like that, you're doing your bit to make it run as best as you can. So yeah, so that's that. There's my PC spec, minimum spec requirements, of course. Just thought I'd briefly mention those. So let's go in now and have a look at my options. There's the options menu, first of all, when we go to the main screen, which is, there's a couple of slightly different ones in there. But if I go to the main display settings, like I said, I run my game in 4K. I have a 4K monitor to run the game from, which I know is asking a lot of my graphics card, plus having the extra monitors plugged in as well, so it's always working for its money. But I have got a 4K monitor. I wanted it to look as good as I could in front of me, as well as in the content that I record to put out for you guys. So it's in 4K. I have VSync turned on. Again, this is kind of a must-have requirement for the way I have the graphics set. If I turn this off, it looks like Wolverine's been slashing my screen. The choppiness and the screen tearing is just off the charts. Frame rate limit, I have mine set to 60 because I have a 60 Hz monitor. Now, again, like I said at the beginning, I'm no authority on hardware and PC specs and building PCs and all that. I have built this PC myself. I kind of know what I'm doing in that respect, but I don't consider myself an authority whatsoever. But one thing I have learnt, and I don't know whether this is something that a lot of people tend to miss or not, when it comes to concentrating on the performance of your game, you want your frame rate to be whatever as best as possible, to be whatever the refresh rate is of your monitor. So if you have a 60 Hz monitor, as I do here, you want 60 frames per second. That combination and seeing 60 frames a second on a 60 Hz monitor is the perfect match. And that the same would be for if you have a 120 Hz monitor, you want 120 frames per second, etc., etc. That getting that combination and getting them running like that makes the game, and what you see in front of you and the movements of whatever you're doing really, really nice. Now, Farming Simulator isn't a very fast-paced game generally, is it? It's not like Call of Duty or Battlefield or any of these fast-paced games where you're constantly moving around fast and changing direction fast and all that kind of stuff. So 60 frames on a 60 Hz screen, in my personal experience, is the sweet spot. It really is. So I run in full screen mode. There are differences to running in bordered and windowless and all that kind of stuff, but full screen is the setting I have on my particular rig here. I have resolution scaling is locked because it's at 4K. I have my brightness set to 1.6. I found that to be a relative sweet spot on my particular setup here, and I run my in-game heads-up display scale to 70% because personally I just find that the size of the heads-up display on the screen is just a bit too big for my personal liking. So yeah, that's how I have mine set. So we'll jump in now. I'm going to go into the game now, and then we'll go into the additional settings, the advanced graphic settings in the game, because there's a couple of different options in there that don't appear in this one on the main screen. Right, so we're in game now, and these are my graphic settings that we have. So we've seen all these ones before, obviously in the main screen before you jump into the game. So object draw distance, I have everything turned up to 200%. Now on PC, you can alter this and go up even further. Occasionally I will do that for the purposes of taking a thumbnail, but what I've noticed is over the last couple of game updates, the amount I've been able to turn this up to has decreased a bit. You can actually go up to like 1,000% essentially, but I've found on some maps the game just crashes halfway through trying to load it up basically. So I think when I used to be able to do that, I think the maximum might be somewhere around 500 or 600% now. but I'm not too sure. I haven't actually done that for a little while now. But essentially, if you wanted to do that, you go into My Documents, My Games, Farming Simulator 25, and you will see at the bottom there, this is the folder where you have all your save files. There's a file at the bottom called game.xml. I'll overlay this on the screen now, but you can go into it, and as you can see here, by default it's set to 2.000, which is the 200%. You just change that to 4 or 5 or 6 or whatever, 3 or whatever, and that 3.0 is 300%, up the scale, as it were. But that's all dependent on the system that you've got, and it's also dependent on the map that you're running, because I found sometimes, for example, Saxlingham, there's been times when I've been able to go into FARMERSIM Briscoe's Saxlingham map, and I've been able to turn that up to 700 or 800%, jump into the game and still achieve 60 frames a second, which is outstanding, and that's a bit of a testament to the way that that particular map is optimized. And that's another factor that can cause misbehaving in the game, unsmooth gameplay, for example, is how well optimized the map is, how many trees are on the map, for example, how populated that particular map is with objects, how busy your farm is. If you've got loads and loads of mods and machinery and all that can affect your frame rate and how smooth the game runs. So that's a factor to always consider. But generally, as a rule, I just have everything kept here to 200%. I find that's just the smooth kind of point for me, as it were. I might just dial it up to 300, 400, 500% for the purposes of taking a detailed thumbnail, but for gameplay, 200% suits this system really well. Scrolling down now to render quality, there's a lot of factors in here that can cause unsmooth, choppy, laggy gameplay. Fortunately, because I've got the settings that I've got and because I've got the hardware that I've got, I am able to run most of these settings at maximum settings. Up until a wee while ago, I had everything dialed up, but there's a couple of settings that I've recently started to turn off, just because I found that it just adds that little bit of extra performance to my particular setup here. But I have my shader quality set, shader quality, shading rate, and screen space reflection set to very high. You can go to ultra with the space reflections, but I've chosen recently to dial that down to very high. I have screen space shading rate turned off. Again, I haven't really been able to notice much of a difference with that turned on, but for me, on my particular settings, having this turned off just works just that little bit better. Screen space shadows are turned on. SSAO quality, the screen space ambient occlusion, I have that to very high. Atmosphere quality is very high. The volumetric fog. Now, this is a setting and a feature that came along for Farming Simulator 25, and it's great. It really is. It can add a lot of visual immersion and detail to a map and to the way that you play. But I have found, on my system in particular, whether it's because of the hardware I've got, I don't know, it probably is, but the fog, for me, again, it can be, as a visual thing, it can be quite overpowering. Sometimes I feel sometimes there's too much of it, and also the quality of it can really put a lot of demand on my system anyway. So I have that set to low. There is a mod out there that I was told about recently called Fog Control, which allows you to turn it off completely, and I got that mod straight away because I've got a bit. Again, it's a personal preference, whether it's just me, but I've got a little bit sick of the fog, so I kind of just turned it off. And it just makes the game run so much better for me. And like I keep saying, as a content creator wanting to get the best performance and visual smoothness out of my content, turning the fog off just works. I have cloud shadows turned off. I hate this thing. When you see the cloud shadows move across the field, and they seem to move far too fast and far too frequent, and it just looks odd. It doesn't whether I'm missing something, but it doesn't correspond with the speed of the clouds that are above you. But again, maybe that's personal preference, but I have those turned off. The terrain quality, I have that dialed up to the maximum at very high, texture resolution high, and the texture filtering, I have that at let me say this correctly, anisotropic 16 at the highest level you can get. Light quality, I have that set to ultra high, lens flare high, shadow quality high, shadow distance quality high. I have the soft shadows on and the shadow map filtering set to high. Fortunately, I've been able to turn these up to max. Settings regarding the foliage and all that, I have the foliage shadows on, the realistic beacon lights on. Field of view, I suppose this is all personal preference and entirely down to how we as individual players like to play. I have mine set to 70 degrees. I have the tyre tracks set down to 100%, again, because I've just found that on my system in particular, having that down at 100% just helps a little bit of performance occasionally. I have the max mirrors set to 4. I think that is dialed down 1 or 2. I can't remember exactly what that is by default. It might be 5 or 6, I'm not too sure. Shadow lights up to 10. Mesh tessellation volume at the maximum there of 200%. Now, when it comes to the anti-aliasing setting here, this is off because of the upscaling FSR3 setting that I have running on my game here. Now, this for me and the frame generation setting here is, for me, it's the key to making my game run smoothly. If I have this turned off, it's, in my personal opinion, awful. It really is. I can vary between the different quality settings here, performance, balanced, or quality, I think it is, but I have mine set to performance just to keep the performance as best as possible, because in 4K resolution with all those settings that we've just been through above, it just seems to work perfectly. And I've spent a long time faffing around in these settings trying to get the optimum thing. This is the one that works for me, and of course this is particular to me with an AMD graphics card. If you are, I can't speak for any experience with NVIDIA cards, unfortunately, so if you are an NVIDIA user, I can't give advice on what settings to have for your system on here, but of course this is just what I have with my particular settings with my graphics card and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, this is what allows me to run really smooth gameplay. Now, if I jump into the game very quickly and show you, I've actually jumped into my Bells My Mains Kinleague save game here to show you, just to go through in a bit of example. So if I press F2 and bring up my frames per second there, as you'll see, I have 2 readings. Now, this is because of the frame generation. You see I don't know exactly what they both correspond to or what the 2 mean, but I have it says 30, and it hovers between roughly about 59 and 61. Now, I've jumped into my Kinleague server because Kinleague save, because of all the ones that I've got running, I find this one to be the most demanding, and it's over here. When I come over here, occasionally it kind of drops. It won't do it now. I'm recording. It won't. It can just be guaranteed that it's not going to do it. But sometimes when I come over here, it kind of drops down to about 27, and it starts to get a little bit choppy. But as I've just said, you can just be typical, isn't it, that it's not doing something. It kind of wavered there between 29. But what I found is that if I turn all that off, if I turn the frame generation off, this is what I've always been wanting to achieve. You see this smooth as I move around, whether it's slowly or fastly. If it's slowly or fast, it's smooth. It's as smooth as it can be, really. It does. Occasionally I get these micro stutters, which I've tried so hard and for so long to try and iron out, but I just can't. I've dialed the settings down as much as I can, but regardless of what I have things set to, these occasional micro stutters that appear, I just can't seem to get rid of. But if I go into my settings, again, go back to the graphics settings, and if I turn off frame generation there and click on apply, and as you'll see there now, I've only got a frame rate limit. It kind of hovers around a bit, but as you'll see now, when I do that same rotation, it'd be interesting to see, because I've never actually made a recording like this, but you see how it just feels that little bit choppy? And to me, for my personal demand for what this game can produce, that's just wholly unacceptable. It just feels, I can see it in front of me on my screen, it just feels choppy and a little bit stuttery, and I can't, yes, it's not doing too bad. It's sitting at, what, 50, but depending on what you're looking at and depending what's in front of you and depending on what the game is trying to load, for me, it's just, I can't deal with anything below 60 frames a second, because it just immediately starts to produce this choppiness that drives me insane. It really does. So yeah, I have to have the frame generation thing running. So if I turn that back on again, click on apply, there you go, it's now buttery smooth, and all that stutteriness is just gone. It really has. So for those of you who, like I said at the beginning, the reason why I'm putting this video together is in a way, to answer the questions that I do regularly get from a lot of viewers in the comments of a lot of my videos. What are your settings? Do you use reshade, etc, etc, etc? So I thought I'd put this video together, so from now on, if anybody does ask me this question, I can just link them to this video, and then I can, you know, because I've always just had to type out an answer in the same way. I run in 4K, I do this, I do that, I have this, I have that. So yeah, that's the main purpose of this video. So we're going to have a look very quickly at my reshade settings, because I know a lot of people do use reshade. It's an incredible bit of software, but I don't really take advantage of 99% of what reshade can offer, purely because I've found a sweet spot with it for my individual tastes and what I see in front of me, and for the way it looks on my content. But if I bring up the reshade heads-up display, so as you can see, I use barely nothing. A lot of people use presets, downloadable presets. People share their presets on the internet for others to download. And there are some incredible things going on in the world of reshade and what you can do with Farming Simulator. I was very fortunate a wee while ago. One of the members over on my Discord channel, a gentleman called Hazard, who is, and still is, an extremely talented individual when it comes to using reshade. Some of the images that he was producing and posting on my Discord were absolutely astounding. The quality and the cinematic depth of fields that he was able to produce, or the depth of fields that he was able to produce, made the images look absolutely incredible. Literally some of the best screenshots of Farming Simulator that I have ever seen. He was very kind enough to share his preset, which I do have in here somewhere. But when I activate that preset, it's got so many of these things activated here. I don't know what you call these, but add-ons or whatever. He's got so many of them activated that obviously when I jump into my game, even with the frame generation running, the performance drops sometimes significantly by a good few frames per second, but it stops again, it turns that smooth gameplay into relatively choppy gameplay. So I just have this set now. What I've chosen these three because they're, of all the ones that you can have on in reshade, these are the ones that just work the best for me. I have this one called Colorfulness, which if I disable it, as you can see there, I'll enable it and disable it, it just brings a depth of vibrance and color to what's in front of me. This is pretty much what it would look like by default, and then I activate Colorfulness, and it just gives a nice level of richness to what you see in front of you. The Clarity and Clarity 2, now I don't know if I need to run these two at the same time, but these are just two that I found just add a if I click them on and off, focus on, I'm pointing at the screen here as if you can see my hand, but you can see how it does make a difference to what you can see. It just adds, again, that little bit of clarity. And again, with Clarity 2 as well, it does something to what's in front of me here, so I have these two activated. I do like to run the cinematic depth of field. Now, if I force load all effects here, which will take a second or two, there's so many things. If I scroll all the way down here, there's so many things. I do like now and again to use a bit of bloom, which adds, you know, sometimes in screenshots and stuff, in the thumbnails and stuff, you can add. There's so many things you can use this reshade for. It's incredible. You can make it look like an old CRT monitor from the 80s, for example. There's so many things, but there's one called Cinematic Depth of Field that I have always liked to use for screenshots and thumbnails, etc. But for some reason, recently, as of one of the last updates that we've had for Farming Simulator, this cinematic depth of field has stopped working. I've got no idea why. I have tried everything to figure out how to get it working again, and it doesn't work for some reason. It's something to do with depth buffer. Maybe Giants have changed something with the settings of the game and how it deals with depth buffer settings. There's ways you can change things in the global definition. So you see this thing says a reshade depth input is reversed. You can change these back from 1 to 0 and vice versa. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't change anything. These are what you would ordinarily fiddle with to try and get the depth of field back on again. It doesn't work, so it's been driving me a bit mad, that one. So I haven't been able to take advantage of that depth of field recently since one of the latest updates from Giants. But it is what it is. It's their game. It's their game to do exactly what they want to do with it. All this other stuff around us that we can use within the game isn't anything to do with them, is it? So it's all good. But yeah, it's just a bit of a shame. So these are so when people do ask me for my reshade settings, it might be a bit disappointing to know that I'm not using some real big fancy super duper preset that that there are so many of out there. These are the three things that I use to make my game in particular look the way it is, and up to now a lot of people have liked it and seem to appreciate the way that my game looks, so I'm grateful for that. And so I just thought I'd show you, if you are a user of Reshade, that is all I do in Reshade, just those 3 kind of add-ons that I use there. The other thing that I do take advantage of is a darker shadows and lighting preset, I suppose, or folder that you use alongside another mod called Additional Game Settings. Now, the way you access this, if anyone's interested in this, by the way, you can get it on my Discord. It was shared on my Discord a long time ago, so forgive me, I don't actually know where it came from. I think it was Sim Farmer who might have posted it on there. It might have been Techno. I can't remember. It was one of the users on my Discord anyway who had posted it on there a very long time ago, but it is something that I rely on all the time. Now, you'll need additional game settings. I'll post a link to that in the video description below, and if you want a copy of this darker shadows and lighting folder that you need to achieve this, then go over to my Discord, go to the Farming Simulator 25 mods section. In the search bar at the top, type darker shadows and lighting, hit enter, and it will bring up the post from all that time ago where you'll be able to download that folder. Now, you put that folder in again in your file system. You go to Documents, My Games, Farming Simulator 2025, Mod Settings, and then FS25 _ Additional Game Settings, and then within that folder you will see a lighting folder. You place your darker shadows and lighting folder that you'll have downloaded into that lighting folder, quite simply, and then when you go to your settings, now, because I've got additional game settings, I have this additional menu. You click on additional settings and you will see here that I now have shadow and color. Now, this is where you can select, because of additional game settings and what it can do, you can select the different lighting settings for different maps that you have installed in your game. So you can go all the way along here. You can, there's all the maps that I've got in my game here. I can, if I wanted to use the lighting from the Wilderness Studios Elk River, I can use that if I select that now and come back out of it. As you can see, the lighting looks that little bit different, and they all have their own charm and individuality to them. I've just always preferred to utilize this darker shadows and lighting. So if I go back into there, scroll right to the very far left hand side of the menu system here, shadow and color, come back out, and that's what it does. Again, it adds a bit more depth and darkness to the shadows, and it, for me and my personal opinion on how the game looks, I just think it looks really nice. Plus the addition of Reshade, the clarity and the colourfulness options that I utilise in Reshade, that is how I produce what I make in front of here in respect of the quality and visuals of my content. So, in a nutshell, that is my game settings, my display settings, my Reshade settings. That's how I have things set up here in my Farming Simulator 25. Again, as a bit of more of an in-depth and involved answer to the question that I always seem to get asked in my comments: what are my settings, etc, etc, etc. So I'm going to post this link to this video to anyone in the future who does ask the same that question. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So I hope you have enjoyed this video, ladies and gentlemen. I hope to those of you who are interested in trying to achieve a similar visual experience to what I can make in my content here, I hope this has helped. As I said at the beginning, the specs and variety that we can get in the world of PCs is massive, so these settings aren't always necessarily going to work for you. It's all down to what you've got inside your PC and all that kind of stuff, and I'm no, like I said, I'm no authority on that matter. It's not up to me to determine how much each of us can afford to spend on computers and all that kind of stuff and what goes into them. The world of computer gaming or PC gaming now is becoming vastly expensive because of the rise in data centers and artificial intelligence that seems to have taken up the market for RAM and increased the prices and all that kind of stuff. I'm not going to go into that in any detail, but that's one of the main reasons why RAM and graphics cards and stuff and processors and chips in general are going up and up and up in price, because the demand is now going into a different place. It's not really focusing on gamers anymore, it's focusing on big companies with big data centers and all that kind of stuff. So but yeah, I hope this has helped a few of you if you wanted to achieve certain things in the settings of your game. I hope this has helped point you in the right direction, especially if you're running AMD hardware like I am anyway. But either way, that's that for this video. I hope you have enjoyed it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for watching. I really do hope you have enjoyed this, and I hope you found it a little bit fun and a little bit interesting. If you're new to the channel and you've enjoyed the video and you like the way I'm doing things, please consider hitting that subscribe button and jumping on board, joining the channel. Please hit that like button too, as it does do wonders. It helps the YouTube algorithm do its thing. And if you like the idea of supporting the channel, there are a couple of ways you can do that. There is my Giants Partner promo code. if any of you are in the market for purchasing Farming Simulator 25 or any of its add-ons or DLCs. There is coffee.com if you'd like to buy me a coffee, and there is also my G-Portal affiliate link if any of you are in the market for an online server to play with your mates. Any help and support there would be massively appreciated. So, thanks again for your time again, ladies and gentlemen. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.